City News is brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.
Good evening, Rotorua. Tonight on City News, a delegation of Musqueam people from Canada will accompany the Te Ara exhibition to the New Zealand premiere at the Rotorua Museum. Tickets are selling fast to the Dame Kiri Te Kanawa concert, and the new head of Bay of Plenty Sport says she brings a real passion for the Bay to her new role. Rotorua Mayor Steve Chadwick has officially welcomed a delegation of Indigenous Musqueam people from Canada at Council Civic Centre. The visiting delegation will accompany the Te Ara Māori Pathways of Leadership photographic exhibition to its New Zealand premiere at Rotorua Museum following the exhibition's extensive world tour. The groundbreaking exhibition is a window looking into Māori leadership and identity, past, present and future. Rotorua Mayor Steve Chadwick said she was extremely proud that Rotorua would be hosting the New Zealand premiere of this international exhibition. Te Ara Māori Pathways of Leadership opens at Rotorua Museum from the 29th of March until the 15th of June. Tickets are selling fast for what could be a last opportunity to see Dame Kiri Te Kanawa live in concert. The Rotorua show is on May the 6th at the Civic Theatre. Concert promoter Graham Hall says Rotorua is one of Dame Kiri's favourite cities, and the concert is a wonderful occasion to celebrate Dame Kiri's 70th birthday and to acknowledge her outstanding career.
And we're really lucky to have her because we had a concert last year, which I think you recall, and I think it was a lovely experience for you.
Yes.
And the promoters rang and said, look, she's coming on her 70th birthday tour, would you like to have a concert in Rotorua? And that's for the whole of the Central North Island. So we said, yes, we would. There are 4 other concerts throughout New Zealand, but we said we would like to do that. And so the 6th of May is going to be another recital. And Dame Kiri is going to be here with the world-acclaimed pianist Terence Dennis, and he is a great guy, does a great job. So we're very fortunate, I think.
A new leadership program is underway at Te Wairiki Puria Trust that hopes to inspire youth to actively participate in quality community activities. Coordinator Maylene Marotti says youth taking part in the program receive a qualification for their efforts.
And we had 310 rangatahi between the ages of 12 and 24 enrol on the program. Obviously I couldn't get to all of them, but out of that 310, I guess maybe 100 of them were involved throughout the whole year. Community events, volunteering at events. They did the Youth Worker Level 3 training and gained 40 credits from that, which they're getting that now in this year. And then we went and supported Maraea Pōmana, who runs the free parking in all the communities. So we went and helped volunteer there and running sports and things. So.
In sport tonight, the new head of Sport Bay of Plenty, Heidi Litchwark, says she brings a wealth of knowledge about sport and sport in the Bay of Plenty to her new position. At a Sport Bay of Plenty meeting last week, she told Alan Solomon that she has grown up in the Bay and has a real passion for the region.
I have a background in business really and have an MBA in sports management, and of course I have been with Sport Bay of Plenty for over 10 years, so know a reasonable amount about the sport and recreation sector, and through ongoing qualifications I've continued to study internationally what's happening in terms of sport and recreation. It's quite an interesting and varied sector. It's always dynamic. So I think that was probably part of it, and also that I think that I know the Bay of Plenty region very well. I'm a Bay of Plenty person. I grew up in Rotorua.
So you're local?
I'm a local. I grew up in Rotorua and Papamoa, and so I very much know this region and am passionate about it. I can't imagine why anyone would want to live anywhere else. And yeah, I think that's probably a combination of those things that maybe led to my selection for the role.
To your weather update now. Tonight a few showers with westerlies freshening, an overnight low of 11. Tomorrow Wednesday, becoming fine in the morning, fresh south westerlies, a high of 19 and a low of 5. And looking out to Thursday, fine with southerly breezes easing, a high of 21 and a low of 7. And the marine forecast for Lake Rotorua for Wednesday, Southwest 15 knots, tending southerly 10 knots at night, with waves below half a metre. Any showers and fair visibility clearing early in the morning and then finding up. Remember, for program listings or to register news or an event, visit our website tv.rotorua.co.nz, or you can head to our Facebook page. Still to come tonight on City News, Kitty Danielle talks with District Councillor Meripeka Raukawa-Tate about council links with iwi and child poverty and what we can do to support the less fortunate in our community. As well, we have highlights of the recent Pacifica Community Day at the Village Green.
Kia ora everybody. Well, we are in front of the council by the government gardens, and I'm delighted now to be joined by Meripeka Raukawa-Tate, who has many roles here in Rotorua, one of which is on council, and she's in charge of ensuring that the relationship between council and the Māori that are here is runs well, aren't you?
Oh, it more than runs well. Actually, it has to be positive and it has to be future directed. Yes, obviously we do know that Te Arawa have, some of the settlements have been concluded. There are others that are nearing completion. And of course, some of our economic development projects in Rotorua will come off the backs of those settlements. So we want to have a far more, council is committed to having a far more meaningful relationship with Te Arawa. The good thing is, Te Arawa is now going to sit down as an iwi and decide what would that desirable relationship look like. So that's really very positive. In the past, it's been more or less, well, what council thinks they'd like to inform Te Arawa about, and sometimes that's been after the event, and what Te Arawa is saying is, no, this is a new era, new time, new people obviously, and a new vision, and so that's very inclusive. Rotorua's new vision is very inclusive of Te Arawa, as indeed it should always have been, in fact.
Well, that's obviously very positive. What's the feedback been from the people of Te Arawa to this, like you said, the new time? What have been some of the comments coming back?
Well, the feedback has been very positive. I have to say that many people have said long overdue, and that's why they're now taking their time, and it'll be a couple of months before they've actually clearly identified what that new role might look like, who will be the people who will be involved, and possibly they might set some priority areas over the next 2 to 3 years that they would like to work on with council. So all very positive, but as I say, long overdue, and people are really now, they sense there's a new willingness to be involved with Te Arawa, for the council to be involved with Te Arawa in a whole raft of areas.
Could you tell us what some of those areas might be?
Well, obviously economic growth. I mean, we've had very sluggish growth in Te Arawa within Rotorua over many years, and now we want that to be rectified, because we do want good jobs, we want training, we want economic growth, because that is the future. We need to have that growth if we're going to be anything, to realise our full potential as a city. So that's really very positive. And there are some iwi who are developing, looking at their resources and saying, well, we'll have to get alongside of council and talk about how we can do the best and develop these assets and resources for not only for the best for Te Arawa, but obviously for our city of Rotorua as well.
And so, speaking of resources, we have the forest, we have the geothermal energy. Are there any other resources that are as yet untapped or that could be used better?
Well, I have to say that one of our biggest resources are, of course, the human resource, the people resource. And that's something that Te Arawa, of course, through the Excel Rotorua is looking at. Also, we've got the children's teams out there now. Everybody is actually looking to say, what's our contribution to growing the city of Rotorua? And you've got to have a well-educated, well-trained workforce that is part and parcel of it. So that's an area that Te Arawa is really going to look into, because we do have a young population, and so how can we make sure that they are work ready and business fit for when their time comes to enter the workforce? So that's really exciting and positive.
Also, the relationship then would just naturally come with Waiariki and them as our learning institute. So are there movements there with them as well?
Yes, in particular, obviously, to Waiariki, because the institute, Technical Institute, because they are a significant tertiary educational player in our city. But we mustn't also overlook Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. Again, there are many of our students that go there, and so we have to work together. We have to make sure that everybody is covering off the work areas that the young people might like to move into. So it's really important that if people haven't talked together before, and sometimes there's been a wee bit of patch protection, well, that has to disappear, and everybody has to work for the good, the collective good of Te Arawa and everyone who resides within Rotorua.
And so, just finally, if anybody out there watching has ideas that they'd like to put forward, if anybody out there has projects that they think might be of benefit to the people here of Rotorua, how can they get in touch with you, Merepeka, and particularly if they're Māori, if they're Te Arawa, and if they feel like they would like their voice heard?
Well, I have to say they're not hanging back. They're getting in touch with me. They're coming into council. They're ringing up, making appointments, and they're coming in to see me. So, but you can come into council, and please don't forget that our mayor is very receptive to hearing from people. In fact, all councillors are. But certainly, I do believe now the gates are wide open for everyone who might, in the past, have thought, no, it's not for me. This is your city, your future, and actually your responsibility.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Merepeka
Kia ora.
Tate. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora, I'm joined by Merepeka Tate now, and she's going to be talking to me about an issue that's very close to both of our hearts, and one that she is a leading expert in New Zealand on, and that is children. And children in particular who are suffering, and one thing that is very clear is that children in poverty suffer more than many. So, kia ora Merepeka, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about what poverty actually means for children. We've heard it before, but what does it actually mean?
Well, poverty really, in all its guises, is really about lack of opportunity and sometimes lack of hope, and it can be through obviously a set of indicators such as low income in the house, such as perhaps everything else that's happening in the home that's impacting on children. And it doesn't have to be child abuse. It can be, as I said, no money in the home. It can be a one-parent family. It can be without any networks or support for the mum or the dad. So really things that I guess cause young families and people to have no hope for the future, and that's not really how it should be.
And a lot of stress too, because when you don't have the money coming in, you don't have the hope, you don't have the support systems, there's masses of stress on parents, and that just filters down to the children. So what are some of the things that you see when children are in poverty? What are the symptoms that they display physically, mentally, emotionally?
Oh, well, oftentimes, of course, they are physically quite ill. I mean, many of the children come to school without having food, without having breakfast, without bringing anything to have for lunch. So that's certainly, but it also is some of the other things, because a lot of children do present at school and you can see that they have been neglected, and they've been neglected because of the home situation or other things that are going on in the lives of the parents. But a lot of it does come down to lack of income coming into home, perhaps sometimes lack of good parenting skills, and so that means that the children are existing in an environment that's not conducive to their growth, and they're there not because they want to be there, but because of actually where they're actually planted, and that's really quite wrong. And so we do have to do something about that.
And so what are some of those things that we can do? What are the most effective things that you can do to help a child in poverty?
Well, our families that live in poverty actually are quite identifiable now. You can identify them through the schooling system. You can identify them sometimes through the social service agencies who are picking up these families because they've become come to their attention. Excuse me. So so we're talking usually about the same families. So it's the agencies now that are talking to each other. Thank goodness, at long last, they're talking to each other and say this family now needs to look at this issue. And so what can we do collectively as agencies to help and support the family? So children don't live in isolation on their own. They are part of a whānau. So if you're picking up an issue for a child, then you have to understand that something else is going on in that home. And so the good thing is now that agencies are talking to each other and they're being prepared to look at what else is affecting that family, not just the child. So it's not a matter of just uplifting a child, certainly not any longer. It's say how can we put our full resources and support in behind the family.
Because the support is really key, isn't it? It's supporting the parents, it's supporting the whānau to be able to, get the oxygen mask on themselves, and then they can be putting the oxygen mask on the children. So for people out there that are concerned and that would like to be able to help children in poverty, what are some of the ways that they could do that practically in their own lives?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of organisations. The churches do wonderful work, and you don't have to be a member of a church to say, look, can you give me some help and support? But the other things is many of these families already have agencies coming into their homes for various reasons, and what they want to say to them, look, I have an issue around this, and it could be budgeting. I have an issue in my home or in the household that I'm living in around alcohol, gambling, abuse in some way, or addiction in some way, shape or form. All of these agencies, if they can't help themselves, these agencies know who else is working in that area and then can support them to get the help that they need. So it is actually a matter of not being shy and putting your hand up. The other thing also, extended family members can say, there's an issue in that house, I need to get you some support, and sit down and say, hey, this should not be happening, and there are some supports out there for you. So it is a matter of being aware of what you're actually seeing, and if it is you believe there's abuse or there's poverty in that home, then actually say, I'm here to help, we're going to get you some support.
And we will both know that when you do go off to get support, even if it's just to your GP and you say, look, I'm actually struggling with this, I need some support, they're more than happy to help. They actually want them to go in and ask, aren't they?
They do. And as I say, whānau order, there are some whānau order providers in our city now, and they do a wonderful job. They come from very much a kaupapa Māori background. They realise without the whānau there to support you, you are likely to either slide back or actually over a period of time not to go very far. And so they will come in and they will make sure that they help you to take a planned approach to the future. And no matter where whānau are right now, what whānau order says to them, no matter your circumstances right now, that does not have to be where you're going to be in 4 or 5 years' time. So your future actually starts now, and it really is in the planning.
Well, thank you very much, Meripeka. It's always a delight talking to you, and I know that you're a very passionate woman about this subject. So thank you for your time and also for your passion for the subject.
Thank you.
Kia ora. Kia ora, everybody. We'll see you again after the break.